dress, devil with the blue dress on. Yeah! Yeah, Sam!
Go to hell, Carolina, son.
Go to hell, Carolina. Go to hell. Good evening. It is Wednesday, February 17th. This is episode 45 of the Duke Basketball Report podcast.
46,
It is a special,
46.
46. Excuse me. I'm so excited. 46.
Or 45A. This is 45A. It's like an
45A.
appendum.
I vote we call this episode 74 to 73 because that was.
Let's go! Yes.
This is episode 74, 73 of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. We are recording about an hour, maybe a little less, after Duke has beaten Carolina by the score of 74-73 in the Dean Dome. I am your host this week, Sam Klein, coming from Denver, Colorado. As usual, I have Donald Wine in Washington, D.C.
Yo, it's lit up here in DC. Let's go. I'm ready.
And down in Atlanta, Georgia, Jason Evans.
We had no business winning that game, which makes it so much fun.
I don't even care. I don't even care.
We had no business winning that game. None.
We'll just go around. I guess I'll start with Jason. Jason, tell us about how little Duke deserved to win a game where they only had like 5 players.
So it's not deserved because our guys fought. They fought like men. And by the way, people, if you have little children around, you may want to clear them away from the podcast listening arena because there may be some swearing going on. We played like motherfuckers. That's what happened.
No. You better tell them.
That is what happened. We played hard. So deserved. It's not a matter of deserved, but it's a matter of if you objectively watch the game. Folks, if you turned the score off, if you just watched what happened in the game, then you would have thought Carolina won by 10 or 15 points. They were so much better on the boards. This is what we were afraid of. So Carolina had 18 offensive rebounds on 40 missed shots. That's a 45% offensive rebound rate. Basically, we talked about it. They tossed the ball at the rim, and then they went and grabbed it. And the guy who mostly grabbed it was Bryce Johnson, who was absurd, ridiculous, crazy. But as Jay Williams pointed out in the postgame, and this was a big deal. With 10 minutes left in the game, Bryce Johnson had 27 points and 18 rebounds, which are crazy stats, just stupid kind of numbers. He finished with only 2 more points and 1 more rebound, 29 points, 19 rebounds. Now, 29 and 19 is like just stupid, absurd, ridiculous kind of numbers. But in the final 10 minutes, he did nothing. Someone explain to me how, guys, explain to me how Marshall Plumlee.
Plumlee checked back in.
Marshall picks up his 4th foul.
Yep.
He goes out, then he comes back in with 10 and a half minutes left, and Carolina promptly starts doing what? They start jacking up 3-pointers. This is the worst coached team in the country. You guys talk for a minute. I can't believe we won.
Sorry, go ahead, Donald. Go ahead.
What did I say in our last podcast about Roy Williams? What did I say? I said he does not like coaching in big game situations. And at the end of the game, he had not 1, not 2, but 3 timeouts left, and he used 0 of them. I'm telling you, with 12 minutes left in the game, when Marshall Plumlee checks back in with 4 fouls, like you said, they did not go after him. They started shooting 3-pointers, which they were terrible at. I believe, what were they tonight from 3? 1 for 13.
1 of 13. That's a bad percentage.
Like, literally, you could toss the ball at the rim blindfolded and get 1 of 13. Like, they abandoned their game plan. They went away from the guy that got them all the way there, Bryce Johnson. Like you said, he had 2 points and 1 rebound with Marshall Plumlee guarding him the rest of the game with 4 fouls. They didn't try to check him or anything.
Marshall Plumlee or Brandon Ingram, who, as good as he is on defense, can't really do much against Bryce Johnson. And we said the other day when we talked about this game that, you know, Duke has to make a decision on what to do about Bryce Johnson because he's so clearly their best player, and they kind of just let him do what he does and shut down everybody else, and especially down the stretch, as you point out, for whatever reason, Carolina just stopped giving him the ball.
And the one basket he had once Plumlee checked back in game was, I think, if I recall correctly, right after he checked back in, where they had a little sequence where he ended up with an easy dunk. Those are the only 2 points he had the rest of the game.
All right, I want to pose you guys a question. At that moment when Marshall checked back in with 10 and a half minutes left, what was your thought? Donald, you first.
Wusa.
What does that mean?
Wusa is what, if you've seen Bad Boys 2, you know exactly what Wusa is. When things aren't going your way, when things are just feel like the world's collapsed on you, you grab your little pressure points behind your ears, you rub them, and you say Wusa, and everything is okay. So I was just Wusaing in the.
Jason, I don't know how to respond to that. Jason, what did you think when Coach K put Marshall Plumlee back in?
I mean, I thought it was a very risky move. It was, I was terrified because Chase Jeter had tried to give us a few minutes, and he grabbed an offensive rebound and promptly walked with the ball, and he committed a foul. And look, Chase is doing his best. I mean, but I was terrified. There were several times in this game when I was sure we were going to lose.
Yeah,
with 13 and a half minutes left, when Marshall picked up his fourth, I was sure we were going to lose.
I don't want to pretend like. Go ahead.
With 6.5 minutes left, when Carolina went up by 8, with 6.5 minutes left, I was sure we were going to lose. And by the way, that was the moment that Brandon Ingram, who, there was an article about how Brandon Ingram almost went to UNC, and what would Carolina's season be if they had Brandon Ingram? I don't even want to dream about that. They would be number one with a bullet because he's an amazing, remarkable player. But Brandon Ingram, basically, it was 68-60 with 6 minutes left, and Brandon Ingram said, "Yeah, you know what? I'm taking over my game," and he scored 3 straight buckets to give us life. And I'll tell you, the first moment I thought I was sure we were going to lose, I was sure with 7.5 minutes left when Matt Jones twisted his ankle and Carolina was leading 30-24. And they were only up 6. I was certain that we were about to get blown out.
So bad. It looked so bad too.
So bad. Luke Kennard hit an on-the-move 3-pointer from 22 feet with the guy in his face that and that was the moment when I went, wait, maybe we're not going to lose this game.
I kept looking up at the box score, or at the scoreboard, probably like every minute, and just thinking, man, we're still just only like 2 possessions behind. Like other than the part where UNC they were up by 7 and they were up by 8, and then the lead started chipping away, and it was like, man, we're only down 2 possessions. We're only down 1 possession. We're only down 3 possessions. Like as much as Carolina felt like, as you said, Jason, as much as they felt like they were in control of the game, they really weren't. They never really managed to pull away from Duke, despite the fact that in the second half, Duke only had 5 players. Chase Jeter played a couple minutes while Plumlee sat with the fouls. I thought, and going back to my question, when Coach K put Plumlee back in, I said, the only way we're winning this game is if Plumlee comes in now and can give us, 7, 8, 9 minutes without fouling again.
Or 10 and a half. Or 10 and a half.
Or as it turned out, it was 10 and a half. And you know what? He was productive in that time, as productive as he could possibly be, given that he had to, wait in the paint and not be as aggressive on defense as he wanted to be. He still made a couple of baskets. He still got a couple of rebounds. He was still
he battled. He still battled. Yeah.
So Sam, your sentiment was the same as mine. I was at the Duke DC watch party. Shout out to Laughing Man Tavern, everybody who was down there tonight. There's about 200-300 people there. Everyone in the building was basically like, "Hey, I don't know how, but we're only down 4. We're only down 6. We're only down 8." Like I think the biggest lead of the game was 7, 8 points.
It was the 8-point lead was 6.5 minutes left was the biggest lead. Yeah,
it was the biggest lead of the game. And throughout all of that, we were kind of like, I don't know how we're in this game, but we're still in it. So it was almost a surreal feeling the entire game that I wasn't even mad at the first half. Like we were down 4 at the break, and we're like, look, we're down 4 to a team that on paper with everybody on our team, people would probably think we would lose that game on paper. And we were down to 5 players, and we were somehow only down 4. And every time they seemed like they were about to pull away, our team just showed this brilliant, big-ass heart that we've had basically since the second half of the UVA game a few days ago. And somehow just stayed in there because it sounds like this team is very together. And you could tell throughout the game they weren't getting down on each other. You've seen at times this season where if someone makes a bad play, they've gotten on each other, not like in a bad way, but they've gotten on each other. There was none of that tonight. They were all together. They were all locked in. They were all focused. And at the end, every single guy contributed in some way in that final 2 minutes of the game, whether it was scoring a point, locking down their man on defense. They all showed something that gave us this victory, and I still don't know how it happened. I'm so glad it did.
I hope that there they're all walking around. That those 5 guys, especially, are walking around West Campus tonight at the bonfire doing the Sam Cassell big balls dance.
Oh yes.
Because the amount of poise that it took to stay in that game, to stay aggressive. Only Plumlee. It looks like Thornton ended up with 3 fouls. Plumlee ended up with 4. Everybody else was 2. Everybody else ended up with 2 fouls. They played manic defense at the end. Thornton with the block at the end of the game to seal it was unbelievable.
Hey, and by the way, in addition to Thornton's block, the play right before that, I was going to say one of the amazing things about this game was that it wasn't a game where it was decided by offense. To me, very much it was decided by defense.
Right.
Luke Kennard had a big block on the play right before the one where Thornton had the block.
Mm-hmm.
74-73 is not like an outrageous, super high offensive number. It wasn't that Duke was like, or either team was shooting great. I mean, Duke hit 37% of our three-pointers. That's like right around our season average. We had 41% of our shots in the field. That's a little less than we do in the season. We were good from the free throw line, but the amazing thing to me, it wasn't just that we got hot. Other than Luke Kennard, there's no one on the team who you go, oh, that guy had an incredible offensive game. It was that we just played with a lot of grit, with a lot of heart. We played together. We played smart, and we made the most of every opportunity that we had. And man, that's a wonderful, wonderful thing when you see it happen. God, it's great.
Duke really didn't actually shoot that well. They only shot 41% from the field, and that's including a perfect night for Marshall Plumlee. And obviously, Marshall doesn't take long distance shots. Ingram was only 7 for 21, and Grayson Allen was only 7 for 18, and Derek Thornton was only 2 for 9. It was really just Kennard and Plumlee were the only 2 guys that had relatively efficient offensive nights. So right, I mean, it's true. Even on an off night for this offense, which we know that this offense is a strong one, they still managed to put up 74 points on an off night. Now, granted, UNC's defense is not something to write home about, but it's amazing just how poised they stayed all the way through the end, and managed to somehow. I still can't fucking believe they won that game. How did they win that game?
All right,
also,
so wait. So
7 assists. We only had 7 assists tonight. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they had 17. Carolina was just killing. Nate Britt, by the way, had 6 assists in 14 minutes, and it felt like whenever he came in, Carolina got nothing but wide open slam dunks. I mean, they were very effective. Yeah.
How did they not foul out any of our guys?
I don't know.
I don't understand that. They should have just been given the green light to go full speed at every one of our dudes on every possession. Like their game plan should have just been drive the ball to the hole every possession, and they didn't do it.
They kept on taking jumpers. I don't know what they were doing, and
they can't shoot to begin with. I mean, they know they can't shoot to begin with.
Yeah, they're like the second worst 3-point shooting team in the ACC, behind only Wake Forest. So I want to get to another thing. Marcus Page, who by the way played the most minutes of anyone in Carolina, played 35 minutes. I have no idea why.
Bryce Johnson only played 33, despite going 13 for 17 from the field and pulling down 19 rebounds.
Yeah, but instead they wanted Marcus Page in the game so he could go 2 for 10, and Joel Berry in the game so he could go 2 for 12. Marcus Page, I want to talk about this for a second. Do you guys remember when Marcus Page was a lock for sure, absolute first-round draft pick? Do you remember when he was for sure going to be ACC Player of the Year? Do you remember when he was a first-team All-American? I got a question. Is Marcus Page, is he even in the conversation for like third-team All-ACC at this point?
No.
I don't think so.
You know why? No. Because he cannot play in big games. We've seen this over and over. Everyone talks about how Marcus Page, UNC's usually rank very high at the beginning of the season because they say Marcus Page is going to lead them to the promised land, and it ain't going to be Marcus Page. Marcus Page ain't about that life. He showed it again tonight, like 35 minutes, 2 for 10. He only had 7 points. And really throughout the game, he wasn't a factor at all. Like there was only maybe a couple of plays where you thought, oh no, Marcus Page is about to get into this game. We're in trouble. And he went into and clammed up like a turtle like he has done in previous games. I don't understand why he plays like that.
There was a point.
How much better was
he?
How much better was? Hold on.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. How much better was Marcus Page as a sophomore than he is today as a senior?
Yeah,
it's like crazy. And here's my theory:
his best year was his freshman year. In my opinion.
His best year was his sophomore year. He has 17 points a game as a sophomore.
No, I'm not talking about points. I'm just talking about just his overall game. His overall game freshman year, where he came out and he didn't have any care in the world. All he did was play and be Marcus Page. That was his freshman year. His sophomore year, that's when he started having all the expectations. While he had the points, he didn't have the moxie late in big games. Again, when there was big-time situations where you said Marcus Page was supposed to show up, he never did. And here we are. Was he senior now, junior now? It doesn't matter where he is.
Senior.
He's a senior, and it seems like he's a junior because I keep giving the benefit of the doubt, and everyone does, but he shows time in and time out that he is not about this big game life.
So I have a theory. My theory is that the longer you play for Roy Williams, the worse you get.
Yeah. Unless you're Bryce Johnson.
Right.
Who give Bryce Johnson credit. He's amazing. He single-handedly. Well, as you point out, Nate Britt had an excellent game. But Bryce Johnson was most of this team tonight, and really kept them in it. And kept them in it against a Duke team that only had 5 guys. Like how hard should it be for Bryce Johnson to dominate this game? Whatever. I did want to also point out there was a point on Marcus. I was going to say about Marcus Page. There was one of the 2 baskets he made. He drove to the hole and made a nice move and laid it in, and then they flat. I was also watching in a bar at shout out to Blake Street Tavern in Denver, Colorado. But they zoomed in on Marcus Page, and I was like, oh yeah, Marcus Page plays for UNC. I kind of forgot about that, even though we just previewed them the other night.
So shout out to my living room, which is where I watch the game.
My living room on Sundays is the best bar in town.
The Evans couch. The Evans couch is a nice place to watch a ball game. Let me tell you. The looks on the fans of the Carolina fans after the game,
and they kept showing them. They kept showing them every time they showed another person. Laughing Man Tavern would erupted another cheer. Like literally they would show some other person who looked sadder than the person before him.
It was the 2012 Austin Rivers game all over again, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's. I think we've slobbered over this game enough. I just want to have everybody go around and pick players of the game, and then I think we'll leave the rest of it for next week when we finish with the Louisville game and look ahead. So Jason, I'll start with you. Give me a player of the game.
I'm going to go with Brandon Ingram. 20 points, 10 rebounds, led the team in both those categories. By the way, also led the team in assists. By the way, also led the team in blocks. Only had 1 turnover. He had a tough defensive assignment, which he failed at. But that's okay. It's all right. When it came to be crunch time, when Duke absolutely positively had to win the game, Brandon Ingram was the guy taking some really, really difficult shots, sticking daggers in Carolina's heart. So my player of the game is Brandon Ingram.
Donald?
I'm breaking protocol, guys. I'm going with everybody. That's my player of the game.
I can't argue with it. That's
fine. There aren't that many guys to pick from, so picking everybody is fine.
Everybody who played, everybody who didn't play, the coaching staff, the managers, all the fans who were in attendance, anybody who watched this game who's a Duke fan, y'all are the players of the game. Everybody contributed to this victory, and I will not pick anybody and single anybody out as the player of this game. I will go with everybody.
My player of the game is Grayson Allen. He didn't have the best stat line of the night, although he did score the most points. I wanted to give him player of the game because as many times as he got fouled and didn't get the call in his favor,
it's ridiculous.
He just got right up and ran back on defense. That dude is the toughest dude on this team, on a team full of tough dudes. Grayson Allen is if you want to watch an athlete, act just like with the best poise, the best attitude on the court, it's Grayson Allen, because when he gets the ball, he's aggressive with it. He's smart with it. He doesn't turn it over all over the place, even though he goes pretty hard. And when things don't go his way, he gets up and he puts his head down and goes to the other end of the floor and does his job. And I think that there may have been a little bit of ref psychology going on where the refs were like, all right, well, we know that Grayson Allen got the call of his life in the last game against Virginia, and maybe that's true, and maybe it's not. But the narrative certainly seemed to say that Grayson Allen got very lucky being allowed to shoot, that he was traveling and et cetera, at the end of the UVA game. And maybe they thought, we'll just swallow our whistles and let Grayson Allen deal with it if the Carolina players want to mob him. And you know what? Allen took it tough. He didn't go screaming at the refs. He didn't go screaming at the UNC guys. He let Coach K do his standard needling at the referees, but Grayson Allen just did his job. So I kind of wanted to pick Derek Thornton for his defense at the end, but I think that Grayson Allen's toughness was exemplified the way that this team played at the end of this game and the way that they rallied to beat UNC again with only 5 guys on the team. So let's. I guess you guys have any closing thoughts before we wrap this up? I wanted to keep this short. So
the ACC race is ridiculous, absurd, and crazy. There are six teams within 1 game of first place,
and one of them is Duke.
Oh yes,
somehow we're still in it.
A Duke team that a couple weeks ago people had written off. So that's look
guys. 2 weeks ago we were unranked, and people were talking about whether we had enough to get into the NCAA tournament, and here we are.
And we said a couple weeks ago on the podcast that going into this Louisville, Virginia, UNC Louisville stretch, that 4-game stretch against 4 ranked opponents.
We were hoping for 1-3 or 2-2, maybe.
I think we were saying like 2-2 would be great for them. If they can go 2-2 against that set, then they're fine. They'll get in the tournament. And
3-0 so far, baby.
3-0 so far, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen to Matt Jones. It doesn't sound good for him. So,
it did. Can we talk about that for just a second? I saw some pictures online. His and this is not a hyperbole. His foot. They showed a picture of his foot as he walked off the court, and it looked like a grapefruit with toes sticking out. It didn't look good. I would not expect him. I don't know what Coach K has said about the injury. Of course, they're probably evaluated tomorrow in full length, but I wouldn't expect him to play on Saturday. I wouldn't expect him to play for quite a while.
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah.
No. We're enjoying a near miracle.
But he's still my player of the game. He's still one of my players.
Maybe I guess there was one more thing I wanted to ask, and I'll send it to Jason because he has a longer memory than we do. Jason, where does this rank in the wins against Carolina for Duke of like the ones that you've seen? Because you've seen a few.
My God. I mean, oh my God. I've seen too many. I can't rank them. It's impossible. But it wasn't like as aesthetically pleasing as some of the wins.
As the Austin Rivers game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the most fun are the times that we just house them, that we beat the bejesus out of them. Like, I harken back. God, was it 2010? There's one year that we beat them by like 30.
Yeah,
in the last game of the season.
It was the last game of the season before going on to win the championship.
82-50.
82-50. Thank you for reminding me.
Miles Plumlee had the exclamation point at the end of that game. He had that alley-oop.
Yeah. So, by the way, Duke has now won 4 in a row against Carolina.
Which is something that they said hasn't happened in they said it's something that hasn't happened in like 10 years or something like that a team that Duke has won 4 in a row. Unreal.
I mean, listen. You start having to have the Carolina guys go to class and do homework and stuff. The competition just melts away.
Are we sure they're really going to class? Did you see that? Did you see that video today about the kid who went down to from Duke?
Oh, that was awesome.
And he asked the guy who's a player, and he said it was Justin Johnson because he was in a Spanish class. And you're like, oh, does he know Spanish? He's like, no, he knows 0 Spanish.
Well, the best part, but the best part was he was like, what do you think about Christian Laettner? And
he's like, Christian Laettner's a legend around here. Like, a legend around here. Oh, man, I love Christian Laettner. He's so great.
Yeah.
What about Harry Johnson?
Stupid Carolina fan.
Harry Johnson's from my hometown.
Yeah, he's from my hometown. He's gonna be great when he comes here next year. Yeah,
I feel sorry for those guys. For those
funny story.
Those poor students going to class today. They're going into class today, and like their friends are like, "Dude, you didn't know Christian Laettner played for Duke."
Oh no!
Wait. Speaking of which, I'd like to issue a request to the administrators at Duke University. Just give them the day off tomorrow. Let the kids rest. Let them have fun tonight and let them rest. They're probably gonna come to class anyway. But if they're a little late, like a couple hours, then let them. It's gonna be a long night.
Shout out to my professor of airplane design junior year who didn't cancel our quiz the morning after we won the national championship in 2010.
My writing 20 professor didn't do that either. But you know what? I went to the rally anyway.
I went to the quiz. I took it in 2 minutes. I turned the quiz in at the front of the room, gave the professor the biggest stink eye, and then walked out to go to the celebration. And then I got a C. So on that happy note, I think we'll wrap it up. I'll talk to you guys again very soon. So for Jason Evans, for Donald Wine, I'm Sam Klein. An unbelievable victory for Duke tonight. So Duke Band, take us home.